Lloyd, just so you know, every time I listen to your show and you go from a segment to a break and the music kicks in, in my head, I picture me and you driving down the road doing Beavis and Butthead. Yeah, that's right.
Bringing you law, gospel, and guns. This is Armed Lutheran Radio.
Hi, folks. Welcome to Armed Lutheran Radio, a show about guns, hunting, competitive shooting, the natural right of self-defense, and what God's Word says about the issues surrounding gun rights and gun ownership. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey, and this is episode number 300. Thank you so much for joining me again this week. For those of you who are new to the show, welcome aboard. Hope you enjoy what you hear today. Hope you will come back and peruse some of the other content on the website, some of our previous episodes, and stick around for future episodes. Today is our 300th episode, as I mentioned. So what are we doing? We're doing something special? Sure, why not? Let's get right into it. But first, I want to thank all the members of the Reformation Gun Club, the members, the men and women who make this show possible, who support this show with their annual and their monthly contributions. This week, shout outs to William from Bentonville, Arkansas, Samuel from Milton, Washington, Robert from Bothell, Washington, Michael from Janesville, Minnesota, John Nielsen, Jerry and Billy from Deer Lodge, Montana, Jeff from Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin, Anita from Old Fort, Tennessee, and our newest member, Jason from Medina, Ohio. Thank you all so much for your support. Armed Lutheran Radio is listener funded. That means we don't have any advertising. We don't have any sponsors. We rely on the support of the men and women who are members of the Reformation Gun Club to keep the lights on and keep doing what we're doing. If you would like to find out more about how to become a member and what the benefits are, there are several different membership tiers and different contribution levels, and you get access to lots of exclusive content, and you get my eternal thanks and the satisfaction of knowing that you helped make this show possible. Go visit armedlutheran.us/gun club or look for a link in the show notes for this or any of our previous episodes. All right, like I said, 300th episode extravaganza, not so much. It's more like what I would call, last year I did something, a Reformation Gun Club exclusive show called the Reformation Gun Club Good Time Happy Hour. So this is sort of like that. It's just you and me and a glass of Pendleton whiskey. Cheers. Huzzah. Let's celebrate our 300th episode. Let me catch you up on what's been going on, and let me explain why this show is the way it is. Thank goodness that Pastor Bennett was flexible enough to not only to record a pontification for episode 298, but also to take the time to do our Clinging to God and Guns show for episode 299 2 weeks ago, and that aired last Sunday, because this past week was a little crazy. I took 3 days off from work last week with the intention of flying to North Carolina to help move my mom into an assisted living facility. She's been, or had been, 4 months in a rehab facility after falling and breaking her hip back in September of last year. The new facility is really nice. It's more like an apartment complex for those of you not familiar with assisted living. It's less like a hospital and more like an apartment. So she'd have her own furniture and tchotchkes and baubles and so forth. So we were going to move her into that place and some furniture and stuff. And the new place is great because it's only 8 minutes from my brother's house and right down the street from a brand new hospital. So it's very convenient, very safe, as opposed to the facility she's been in, like I said, for 4 months, which was 2 hours away. So the plan was to fly to North Carolina last Tuesday, to pick up a rental truck, and then drive that 2 hours to my mom's house, load up her furniture, drive it back to the new place the next day. That would have been last Wednesday, a week from this past Wednesday. Drive it to the new place, get all the furniture moved in, turn in the rental truck, and then Thursday we were going to go and get Mom and move her to her new home. And then that Thursday night, I was going to fly back to Texas. Well, that was the plan. And you know what they say about plans, right? About making plans. I've heard it said that when we make plans, God laughs. Well, so here's how that plan worked out in reality. Everything went to plan on Tuesday. My flight went off without a hitch. I got in around 2:00, wore my mask as required the whole way. We got to my mom's house late on Tuesday night, a little too late, too cold, too dark to try loading things onto the truck. So we did some planning and staging things, and planned to get up early the next morning to load the truck and move everything. I slept on the couch, didn't really sleep a whole lot. Got up Wednesday morning, ate a quick breakfast, threw back some coffee, and loaded up the truck. And we estimated it would take about 3 hours to get everything loaded. And we ended up being a little ahead of schedule. Just the basics: recliner, dresser, bed frame, mattress, some clothes and a couple of tables and coffee maker and some tchotchkes, some framed photos and so forth. And during the 2-hour drive back to the assisted living place, I started to get a little tickle in my throat. And my brother joked about this and was like, "Do I need to pull over? Are you okay? Do I need to be worried about this?" And my mouth was really dry, right? We had not really, except for the coffee early and first thing in the morning, we hadn't stopped to really take a break to drink anything. We completely forgot and left a pallet of bottled water at my mom's. And so I chalked up the kind of itchy throat to dry mouth. And so you can probably predict where this is going. We get to the new place, and we unloaded everything, got her apartment set up. We were both parched because we hadn't stopped to eat or drink anything. So we downed a couple of, in lieu of the water that we forgot to bring with us, we knocked back some of Mom's protein shakes, Ensure or something like that, which kind of wet the whistle and tided us over for food until we got home back to my brother's house for dinner. Funny aside, during the unload, my jeans decided that they were done with this life, and they split right down the crotch. And every time I got in and out of the truck, I heard it rip further. And by the end, I was sort of praying that my pants didn't fall off completely. Hopefully the old ladies didn't notice my junk hanging out, but maybe they did. And maybe that's why they were so nice to us. I don't know. But anyway, that's a little tangential aside. The tickle in my throat didn't really bother me while we were unloading because we were just so busy. And like I said, we drank some of those protein shakes, and feeling pretty good, just tired, from all the lifting and carrying. And, again, wore masks the whole time we were inside the facility. Once we were done, we headed to the U-Haul place where my sister-in-law met us and drove us back to their house. And when we got there, we kind of crashed on the couch. We were both exhausted, and I was getting kind of sleepy, and I just figured it was lack of sleep and all of the exhaustion from moving furniture in and out of the truck. And then it hit me. I started to feel weird. You get, that burning feeling you get behind your eyes when a fever is starting, that low-grade fever feeling. So I asked for a thermometer. Fortunately, my brother didn't rub this in when we found out that I had 100-degree fever. So off to the guest room I went to wrap up in a couple of blankets to keep from, my teeth were chattering. I was starting to get really, really uncomfortable. My brother ended up isolating himself in their bonus room upstairs. And I slept that night. They brought me a little bit of dinner. I took a COVID test the next day, and sure enough, positive. So I spent 5 days isolated in my brother's guest room. And at the time of this recording, my brother is still isolated in the bonus room upstairs. His symptoms hit later, and they're different from mine, and they've lasted a bit longer. And he's tested twice, and he's still positive. So my sister-in-law, wearing an N95 mask, brought us food and meds, but generally tried to stay away from us. Fortunately, she's not got any of the symptoms yet. Hopefully, she won't. By the next day, my fever broke, and the morning after that, I felt normal, whatever normal is. I still had some kind of nasally congestion stuff that I couldn't tell the difference between that and my regular allergies. But as far as being tired or running a fever, none of that. The only symptom I had was boredom and stir craziness. I wanted to get out of there. I was tired of laying around in that bed for 5 days. By the time my isolation was done, so I ended up with, it turned out my 3-day trip turned into 7. I was 3 days without any symptoms by the end of it. I spent 5 days in that guest room, just laying on a bed, waiting for the chance to go home. I didn't get to see my mom. My sister-in-law, fortunately, was able to get her moved in the next day. So that's a long and very long-winded way of saying I didn't really have a chance to plan anything for this week. I wasn't even sure that I was going to get back as early as I did, because who knows, I could have had a rebound or something, symptoms could have popped back up or some new symptom could have shown up. And of course, the Snowmageddon hit here in Texas, not nearly as bad as 2021, but it was bad enough to kind of, gridlock things here for a few days. I could have had my symptoms persisted a little longer. I could have still been there, unable to fly back. So goes to show you, the vaccine really is useless in terms of preventing infection. I was double vaxxed and I still got the virus. I wore a mask fastidiously, didn't matter, still got the virus. And oddly enough, or funnily a word? Strangely enough, I've said repeatedly, we're all going to get Omicron. I think I talked about that in episode 297 in our last Gun Club exclusive. I had no idea at the time when I said it just how prophetic that statement would be. So here I am with you, COVID survivor. My week turned upside down by 5 days of unexpected convalescing in isolation 1,000 miles from home. And we're looking back at 300 episodes. Cheers. What a ride it has been. I wanted to do something this week. I didn't want to put off a show. I could have said, we won't have a show this week, and tried to plan something for next week. But I really wanted to take a moment on this exact day, this 300th episode, as promised, to thank all of you for your support, especially those of you who found the show in the early days and are still among our fans. The show has changed a lot over the last 299 episodes. I still have my notes from 7 years ago when I was planning the show, and thanks be to God that I did not follow through with those plans. Again, when we make plans, God laughs. But instead of just laughing at me, he put amazing people in my path and made sure that this show was different from my original plan and so much better than I could have ever expected. Ken Blanchard was patient in listening to all of my questions and finally kind of kicked me out of the out of the nest and said, dude, if you're going to do it, just do it. Get off your butt and start recording. And I did. And I have not looked back. Aaron Israel came along, and his amazing talent for instruction and teaching became a terrific personal defense segment. For those of you who are newer to the show and have not heard Aaron Israel's segments, go back to the early days. I think he joined us about episode 5 or episode 8, and his tenure with us ran through about episode 136 or 137. I would encourage you to go back and listen to some of those shows. His segments were fantastic. Rumor has it he might be getting back into the instruction game, and if he does, it would be amazing to have him back on the show. Hint, hint, Aaron. Then, of course, there's the amazing Mia Anstine, who came to my attention thanks to really a fluke. I noticed that she had retweeted one of my episodes, one of the early episodes of the show. And I connected with her, discovered that she was, I think, only the 3rd woman ever to appear on the cover of Field and Stream magazine. That led to an interview, I think was episode 28, I believe. Go back and listen to that. A week later, I think in episode 29, she was a regular contributor, and she brought a breath of fresh air and a wonderful perspective to the show, for a variety of reasons, not least of which is the fact that the rest of us are not women. But she has such a depth of knowledge, and she is an amazing person, and she is just her contribution to the show has just been fantastic. My good friend Sergeant Bill Sylvia has been with me from day one. When it finally dawned on me how badly the show would suck if it was just me, Bill agreed to do a segment on competitive shooting tips. We'd been friends for several years at that point. We shot some IDPA matches together. But he very easily could have turned me down and said, I'm just not really comfortable doing this speaking thing or recording my thoughts. But he grabbed the reins and didn't let go, and he didn't turn me down. And his contribution to the show and to those who want to improve their shooting skills has just been tremendous over the years. And of course, there's Pastor John Bennett, the pistol pack and padre from the land of 10,000 lakes. By a stroke of fate, John and I connected in the pre-podcast days. My website somehow got hacked and was redirecting people to porn. And I didn't catch it, but John did. He sent me a message in social media and said, hey, something's wrong. And I was able to fix it before too much embarrassment. And later, when I got the idea to debunk biblical arguments for gun control, to take articles and sort of deconstruct them and fisk them, I reached out to pastor friends on social media, and John volunteered to help. And my original idea, again, original plans, my plan was to have a different pastor on each week. But once John and I recorded that first show, which I think might have been episode 5, it was clear I found my partner in crime. Over the years, John has become an invaluable part of this show, and so much more. A good friend, a confessor, a sounding board for new ideas. When I joke that he's the straw that stirs the drink, I'm not kidding. That may sound kind of flippant, but it's true. I can't imagine this show without his contributions, and I really do appreciate all of my wonderful contributors. Another little sip of whiskey here as we continue to celebrate. A few more shout outs. All right. I want to thank all the guests who joined me over the years and made this show possible, lending their expertise and their voice to this show, giving me some early credibility. Pastors Brian Wolfmueller, Evan Gegline, Gavin Mize, Ken Sherb, Willie Grills, Brandon Warr, and my former pastor, Ralph Abernathy. podcast and YouTube superstars like Bob Main, the aforementioned Ken Blanchard, Cheryl and Danny Todd, Lucas Apps of the former Triangle Tactical, Ben Branham, John Correa, Charlie Cook, Brian Duff, Rob Morse from Self Defense Gun Stories, Amanda Suffolcool, Kevin Yeager, authors like Ray Keating and Remzo Martinez and the amazing Greg Hopkins, Yehuda Reamer, the Pew Pew Jew, and Marcus Weldon. Amazing activists and instructors like Rick Ector and Dr. John Adine and Rhonda Ezel and Lieutenant Colonel Willis Lee. Podcast hosts like Paul Lathrop and John Anderson, the aforementioned Cheryl and Danny Todd and Amanda Suffolcool, Mark Walters from Armed American Radio, who have all graciously invited me at different times to appear on their shows. The wonderful people who supported and sponsored the show in the early days, before we became listener funded, we had sponsors. And the first big sponsors, Patrick and Cassie Coburn from G4G Guns, and especially Bob Cook, who supported the show for years early on, maker of the absolute best holsters for concealed carry and competition. Despite the fact that he no longer sponsors the show, I still love his stuff. I wear and carry his stuff every day. So does Sergeant Bill, and I encourage you to check them out at cooksholsters.com. And if you're interested in a new firearm or firearms accessories, check out G4G Guns as well. And the founders of the Self-Defense Radio Network, Paul Lathrop and Bob Main, invited me to join the network when they first founded it way back in 2016. And I'm honored to be a part of it. And I thank both of you for helping me to get my voice out there in the pro-gun community. I really do appreciate that. The men and women of the Reformation Gun Club I mentioned earlier, and I would be remiss if I didn't go into a little more detail here. They have been so supportive of the work that we do here. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your support, especially those of you who have been with us from the early days of the Gun Club. I looked this up. Calroy from Boron, California, is our oldest member. Now, let me rephrase that. He is our longest standing continuing member, not necessarily the oldest in terms of physical age. He joined us way back in 2017, and he has been a faithful member ever since. Jim from Fort Wayne, Indiana, John Nielsen, Brian from Riverton, Wyoming, Frank from Lake City, Michigan, Mark from St. Paul, Minnesota, Robert from Bothell, Washington, Jackie from Federal Way, Washington, Robert from DeKalb, Illinois, Edwin from Round Lake Beach, Illinois. They joined us way back in 2018 and are still members today. I cannot put into words how much their support and all of the support of all of the members of the Reformation Gun Club means to me. It is the fact that you have I like to say, put your money where your mouth is. You appreciate what we do enough that you would continuously support the show. I have no words for how much that means to me. Thank you so very much for that support. We strive every week to make sure that we don't let you down and that we provide a product that you consider worth supporting. And thank you all so very much. And last but not least, I want to thank all of you who listen and subscribe to the show. Because without you listening, what would be the point? We do this because it's fun. It is a lot of fun to get together and record these episodes and these segments. But without people listening to us and appreciating what we do, it really wouldn't be a reason to do it in the first place. The fact that so many of you, I think we're well over 250,000 downloads at this point, If people weren't listening, there wouldn't be any. We'd be just shouting into the ether. There'd be no point in continuing to do this. Certainly not for. I mean, there's millions of podcasts out there, and I see in social media posts almost every day, people trying to figure out wanting to do a podcast. They just think that doing something and recording something, getting their thoughts and their voice out there is something that they want to do. And a lot of them don't really have any purpose or any idea or any reason why they want to do it. And a lot of those shows do what's called pod fade. They record for a little bit, nobody listens, and then they just stop. Or they realize that as much fun as it seemed like it was, it's an awful lot of work, and they get discouraged and they quit. We've been doing this for 7 years, and there's a reason that we've been doing this for 7 years, and it's because of you. And it's been an amazing 7 years. It's been an amazing 300 episodes, and I want to thank every one of you who listen and subscribe and support the show. Thank you all so very much. And as our good friend Pastor Bennett said last week, here's hoping we have 300 more. So that's going to do it for me this week. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week, a COVID-free week, hopefully. Stay warm, stay safe, keep shooting, keep praying, and I'll talk to you next time.
For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. Check out the Facebook page, The Armed Lutheran, or join our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio. If you like what you hear, please leave us a comment on our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback, or a review on iTunes, and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening to Armed Lutheran Radio, a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.